Hey Ki-Fis, it's Scott Benton here. How are you? Today is Saturday, April 1st, 2023, and I wanted to do a quick walk and talk. I don't have anything planned for this one. Necessarily, I might talk a little bit about reading. That's been on my mind lately. And I just wanted to give you an update of where we are in terms of putting the alumni events together. As you may know, if you've watched the other walk and talk videos I've done, I am working towards raising $3,000 for an event I want to have for alumni only at the Rock and Brew in El Segundo. I think El Segundo, there are other Rock and Brews, but right now I'm targeting El Segundo. And as soon as we've collected $3,000, then we're going to pull the trigger on planning that event. Right now we have collected a total of $2,200, so we're $800 shy of that particular goal. If you'd like to help us move the needle a little bit to get that event going, please get in touch with me and I'll send you an address for you to send a check, and we will add that to the collection, and when we clear the $3,000, then it's on. Not sure when that's going to be. We're kind of talking about June. Right now it's April 1st. I know that the Eta Delta House is having an event on April 8th, so that's a week from today. And if you haven't sent in your RSVP yet, you might want to do that, especially if you're going to be going, so they have an accounting of how many people will be there. And that's 1 week from today. So you probably received in your email an invite that you can respond to. I know you can also go onto the Kingdom Facebook page, and I know the event is posted there. You can always go to the Evite and put in your RSVP. However, for the events that I'm doing, those are completely separate. And I'm raising money so that we can all hang out together, and not just once, but over and over and over again. So we can have a series of alumni events over the next several years. My plan is to clear $10,000. If I can clear $10,000 in terms of what I'm able to raise, then we'll be able to put on events at least through next year, I believe. And that's what I'm shooting for. I'm going to continue to raise money, see if I can bring in more funds so that our events can be even more frequent or better. We can start to go to maybe nicer places, nicer venues, or do cooler things. For instance, what if we all got in hot air balloons and had a Champagne sunset hot air balloon event? Something like that. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with all kinds of ideas. We can do stuff like that. If we raise the money, we can put events on that will essentially get cooler and cooler and cooler. I was contacted this week by 2 alumni who want to join in with what I'm doing, and as I requested on a previous video, I was looking for people to sort of help out with the collection of funds and the RSVPs and the event planning. And so this week I had a couple of guys that are newer alumni. They graduated a few years ago, I think, now. They were some of the first. I don't think they're founding fathers, although I got to go back and look. I think they were the next group, and it's, if you know them, it's Jake Pike and Tommy Columbus, who were sort of, although they were each alphas in the house, separately, they both kind of functioned together and did everything as a team. So I'm excited to have them on board, helping me out with these events, and you may hear from them. They're going to be raising money as well. Maybe I can convince them to come on a walk and talk with me, so we can talk a little bit more about what our plans are. They're coming in with a lot of ideas, a lot of ambition. They actually want to expand this whole plan to, I guess, I don't know if these would be the words they would use, but to more kind of formalize it and put in a lot of structure, and I think these are the guys to help do that. So I can't tell my left from my right on camera here. I'm sort of looking at myself, the little screen that I have on this selfie stick thing. So yeah, Jake and Tommy are on board. They're excited about this idea. I have checks in the mail at the moment. I opened up an account, which I'll show you. Right now there's $100 in the account that I'm going to be putting the money in, and that's because that's how much I needed to put into the account to open it. So I have requested funds from the people that have already pledged to donate to the $3,000 and $10,000 that I want to put together. So I should have those probably next week, and I'll deposit those into the account, and that's going to total $2,200. We have Greg Sarandi, who is sending me a check, and we have Scott Davis, who's sending me a couple $100. So if you'd like to, get in touch with me and send whatever you like, and we'll reach that goal. And once that happens, then I'll keep you informed of the event and how the planning is going. But we're all really excited about this idea, and looking forward to seeing all of you there, hopefully, especially if you're in Southern California. And maybe if you happen to be in town, you could come and hang out with us. Here's the way I look at it. The whole purpose of these events, as cheesy as this may sound, but since we started doing all the stuff of putting the house back together and getting that whole thing organized at USC, there just really wasn't a lot of time spent together with the alumni. And whenever I do spend time with the alumni, those are some of the most fun that I have. But also, they're some of the best memories. As the years go on, I realize that the people that I spend time with, those are the memories I remember, and I remember them strongly, and they tend to be pretty important memories. And I think a lot of us kind of do the same thing. We feel the same way. So those guys are having fun. It's a nice day. It's cold out here right now. It's almost in the high 50s. That's why I'm donned in whatever this mountaineering jacket is I have, and my hat and glasses. It's bright out. There's not a cloud in the sky today. So anyway, the reason that we want to have these events is because in life, if I may be so bold, the most important thing to do is to create memories that we always hold on to, and that's what these events are going to do for us. I think too much time has passed where we lost a lot of opportunity to create those memories with each other, and hanging out at Rock and Brews and whatever else we come up with is going to give us something that we'll continue to take with us for the rest of our lives and build even more memories, better memories, the way that we did when we were in college together. And that's the whole point of this. So if you'd like to help cross that $3,000 mark, that $3,000 goal, that first goal, and help us reach towards the $10,000 goal so we can fund the next couple of years of alumni events, so that we can build positive memories with each other and also just rebond with each other. I mean, you know the drill. We see each other on Facebook, on that Facebook page or whatever. That's That's not even a real, it's not a healthy environment at all, Facebook. I don't know if you remember before the internet, but we used to get together a lot more and have a lot more FaceTime, and the internet kind of took that away from us. Social media did. So did the internet. It became real easy just to send people emails instead of call them or really make much of an effort. So help me make, and Tommy and Jake, help us so that we'll make all the effort. Send us some money, whatever you want. I don't care if it's $25. Doesn't matter. It's going to help us move that needle and get us across that goal line, the $3,000 and the $10,000 goal lines, and let us make all the effort to set up these events. All you got to do is show up and enjoy yourself. All you got to do is come hang out with the guys that you used to hang out with, meet new people, meet the younger alumni, meet the older alumni, and I can guarantee you that you're going to have an opportunity to make some memories that you'll remember for the rest of your life. If not at the event, although you will remember those, because I remember in 16 when we went to Rock and Brews the first time. I have a lot of memories about that, and at this event, so will you. You'll have your own memories, but you also are going to make connections with people that outside of our events, you're going to make a lot of lasting positive memories with them as well. So I encourage you to get involved with us however it is you can. Even if you can't make it to the event, maybe you might consider helping us fund this drive, this pledge drive, fundraising drive, to help out the guys that will be here and that will show up, so that you're helping other people make lasting positive memories that I know are important for us to do and to hold and keep and to create. So let's work on that. What else did I want to tell you? So yeah, we have $2,200 for our first stop is at the $3,000 mark, and then we're going to push on to the $10,000 mark and then beyond. But for now, we got to prove that this is going to work. And so far we've gotten a little bit of traction. I was excited to get I got into text message conversations with Jake Pike and Thomas Columbus this week. Feel free to contact me however you like if you have any ideas or whatever you want to make contributions. Sorry, I keep saying that. I don't know why. I don't know why I keep bringing that up, but do get in touch with me. I've started to get more camera equipment, which I'm sort of excited about. This is actually a test of my new lavalier mic. These are not expensive lavalier mics. I got 2 of them. It's a little windy today, so I put the wind sock on the little lavalier on my lapel on this jacket that you may be able to see. And I don't know what the sound is going to come out like. I've been a little disappointed with the sound. There we go. I've been a little disappointed with the sound on the previous videos, and that was with my Sennheiser mic, which is actually, that's probably a $100 mic, I would think. I can't remember. That's an older mic, and if you listen to those other videos, you probably noticed there was some mic sounds. I did go ahead and buy the DJI microphones, which this is what they look like. Oop. They look sort of like when you get those earbuds. It's the same idea. This is actually hard to coordinate all of this. So the 2 things on the left and right on those ends, those are the microphones, and then the thing in the middle is the receiver. And there's some adapters. And this is what you use when you interview people, so you can mic up. And I've got 2 lavalier mics, so these are the transmitters. So each person will be wearing a lavalier mic with a transmitter, and then the receiver will connect to the DJI camera that I'm using right now. And we should have a pretty even conversation. So that's what this looks like. They're pretty cool. They're kind of expensive. If you have the earbuds, these are earbuds. It's the same kind of idea. That box is a charger, and and it charges the devices inside, and those devices will last about, I think, 15 hours or something, or you get 15 hours of recording. I don't know. It's a long time. It's more than I need. So I'm looking forward to interviewing some people. If you would like me to interview you for any reason, hopefully Ki-Fi related, let me know. Get in touch with me, and we'll get together and do an interview. I do plan to interview Richie Cole. If you have any questions you'd like me to ask Richie, feel free to send those to me. I don't know when that's going to happen yet. I still need to kind of play around with the new equipment I have. I also need to get a little kind of flat tripod thing in order to set up the camera. So there's a couple pieces I still need to order for this camera. All this equipment kind of adds up after a while. And I met with Ray Bryant this week. He was in town, so we got together very briefly, and I'm hopefully going to do an interview with him next time he's in town, which he said he would do. So I look forward to sitting down with him and seeing what comes out of that. I'll probably go into that interview completely cold, I would think. Although I've known Ray, we were in the same pledge class, so we were in the house together back in the 80s. And we didn't really keep in touch after graduation. That was pre-internet. But over the last few years, we've hung out a little bit, and we've kept in touch with each other, so that's pretty cool. And if you happen to have any questions for Ray Bryant, if you know him, please send those to me. And when he and I get together, I'll ask him your questions. This is really nice. I like walking around on this bike path. I'm going to try and find other locations, but for right now, this is just really nice. All the sounds of the birds and just the water, and even the people riding by on their bicycles is kind of cool. It's a really nice day today. Apparently the mountains are still covered in snow, and it is still cold. And here we are in April. Let me recenter this. Hang on a sec. Oh, okay. So it is the beginning of April, and the mountains are still covered. Apparently, Big Bear is going to have their ski season open up till and through June of this year. That back is up there. I haven't been to Big Bear in a long time, but I know that there are people that tried to get up there and didn't realize it had been blocked off. People actually got trapped up in Big Bear, probably for a couple days. I don't know how long that lasted, but they had a pretty big snowfall. So I don't know. I think that's kind of it. That's sort of the update I wanted to give. I did want to talk a little bit, and maybe I'll try to fit this into the video here. I wanted to, and you can just turn off the video if this bores you. It probably will. It's probably everybody. All the videos will be shut off at this point. But sort of like the last video, I decided to talk about wealth building, and I'm not sure if anyone actually got through that. I'd be curious to know if they did and if that was helpful. It was a little all over the place. I'm gonna have to get a little bit more organized with these walk and talks, and structure them out a little bit. Right now they're gonna be a little loosely structured and all over the place because I'm still testing out equipment, trying to get comfortable with this camera gear. And it's awkward doing these walk and talks and having people fly by on their bicycles or what, just kind of, occasionally, as you probably saw if you've watched these videos, I interact with people. And so I don't know. This is just an unfamiliar format that I'm not really comfortable with And so part of the reason I'm doing these is just to figure out, I guess, some of the performance nuances. I mean, no matter what, you're still on something like this. There's still a performance part of this that you're aware of. I'm aware of it right now, and I need to figure out how to, I don't know, use that discomfort in a way to make the performance a little bit better. It's sort of like that stage fright thing where people, you always hear this, before they go on stage, they get kind of violently ill or terrified or whatever it is, and they have to sort of channel that energy into their performance. And once they go on, if they're able to do that right, they can really knock their performance out of the park. But that really comes from being terrified to do the performance. It doesn't feel like that right now, and I'm not doing these things live. That might, I don't know, that might be a little bit more terrifying. This guy walking backwards. Sort of a glitch in the matrix. The minute that he passed me, he turned around and probably didn't want to be on camera. The funny thing about that is I wasn't photographing him, except that he was walking backwards. So had he not been walking backwards, I wouldn't have photographed him. What was I saying? So the one thing I want to talk about is reading. I want to try and talk about that a little bit. This again is going to be unstructured. This is something I want to actually write about this, and it's a subject I've wanted to approach because it's been so important to me and it's been such a big part of my own, I don't know, personal journey or development or whatever it is, and it's something I've done for decades now, and I just can't recommend it highly enough. According to the National Booksellers Association, and I'm gonna get the statistic a little wrong, but it's close enough. According to the National Booksellers Association, 55% of Americans, upon completion of their education, no matter what level they get to, 55% of Americans never again read a nonfiction book in their lives. Never again. So they get out of school. Now, and I've actually heard this during graduation. I've heard people say, I'm so glad I'm graduating. Now I never have to read another book again. I've heard that several times, those exact words. And these are college graduates. I've heard this at SC, I've heard this elsewhere. I'm so glad this is over. Now I never have to read another book again. And they don't. they just don't, according to the National Booksellers Association. So I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story about my own experience with reading, because it's slightly bizarre, I think. But I went to Palo Alto High School, which I think at the time was considered one of the top, if not the top, public high school in the U.S. I then went to USC. I majored in English, writing, and literature. I then went back to USC and I majored in motion picture producing, so film business. And then I graduated. I was working at Paramount. I worked there for about 2 years. I went from Paramount over to Fox, and I worked at Fox in the motion picture group for about 3 years, maybe a little bit more. And from Fox, I then went to Disney, and I worked at Disney for a film producer for about 5 years, where we did a lot of feature film development. So there's a lot of reading of scripts and books and on and on and on. And while I was at Disney, I realized that I was functionally illiterate. I couldn't read. It was so excruciatingly painful to do any kind of reading. And if you know development, any kind of development, whether it's TV or feature film, or even if you work in publishing, all you're doing is reading. And so I had basically gotten through high school, undergrad, graduate school, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, and part of Disney being functionally illiterate. Now, how is that possible? And by the way, my mother was a reading teacher in an inner city school in San Francisco called Woodrow Wilson High School. So she taught reading, but I couldn't read. I mean, I could read the words, and I would sit there and I would read book after book after book, but nothing stuck. So I would read books and I would have no idea what I read. Now, my reading speed was very slow. My reading speed was 174 words a minute. The average reading speed is 240 words a minute, or 1 word per quarter second. That's the average. And I was well below average at 174. And I also had zero comprehension. In other words, I would read stuff and I would spend hours and hours and hours on a book reading at 174 words a minute, and then I'd put the book down and I would have no idea what I just read. I remember I read for undergrad, I was reading Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is not the longest, it's a pretty small book, very tiny type. And so that was around 87, 88. And I read Heart of Darkness, and I read the whole thing. And I put it down, and I literally had no idea what I just read. So I read it again. I read it twice. And I finally understood it in as far as I went and watched Apocalypse Now, which is Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, except set in Vietnam. And I passed whatever test or wrote whatever paper or did whatever I had to do with that material. But the point is that I couldn't read, but I was studying English writing and literature. I could kind of get through all the Jane Austen stuff and some of the poetry and everything, but it was excruciatingly painful. That was hard. But I thought I could read. I thought, oh, well, I'm reading the books. Oh, I should go that way. Maybe I'll take you a different direction. That's a bike path. I want to get you out to the ocean again. So what happened? I finally get to Disney, and my job at Disney is working in feature film development. So movies, and working at a production company where we were reading scripts and books all day looking for material to produce. And then, of course, when drafts of a screenplay of a project would come in, we'd have to read those and do notes and so on and so forth. But I was really bad at it, and I couldn't figure out why. And I finally realized that I can't read. I can't read. Whoa. I don't know if you can hear all those birds. Oh, look at that. Let's see, they're flying around in the sky. I don't know what spooked them, but something spooked them. So I realized, I came to the realization that I just couldn't read. So I decided, I don't know how old I was. I think I was like 28 or 29, something like that. So I had gotten all that way without being able to read. Well, 174 words a minute, zero comprehension. So I did two things. I ironically read a book that was written in the 1940s by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren called How to Read a Book. And if you haven't read that book, that's amazing. Well, that book's amazing, but it's also amazing that you haven't read that book. It's actually not so amazing because it tells you everything about reading that's not taught to you in school. Like, why that stuff is not taught to you in school, I don't know. And I did the Evelyn Wood speed reading program, which I did on an audio cassette. I ordered an audio cassette program from Nightingale Conant of the Evelyn Wood speed reading program. I am now going underneath the PCH and trying not to get hit by bicycles. And so I spent a summer going through the Evelyn Wood speed reading program. And I also read How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren, written in, I think, 1941. If you pick up that book, by the way, there are going to be entire chapters where you have no idea what they're saying. I've read the book 3 or 4 times now, and it's still hard to get through it. And there are still chapters that I'm reading, and I'm thinking, I literally have no idea what these guys are saying. But the net result is, if you read How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren, you will understand more about reading than you ever learned in any school that you attended. Your reading ability will grow exponentially. Reading will become your most favorite activity, certainly your most pleasurable activity. Yes, even more pleasurable than that. And it will completely transform and change your life from that point forward. In fact, one of the things that they argue in that book, How to Read a Book, is that the hardest form of reading you can do is poetry, and the hardest form of poetry that you can read is Shakespeare. So they spend some time talking about that. And when I finished that book for the first time, when I was trying to teach myself how to read, I knew from that point forward how to read Shakespeare. And I got in my car and I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought Hamlet and went home and read it and understood it. I didn't understand everything. Hamlet's one of those books, if you're an academic, there are people that read Hamlet their whole lives over and over and over again. It's one of these, there are books that if you read them several times, it's a completely different experience each time because they're multi-layered. They have different levels. And so there are books that people read over and over and over again to get a deeper and deeper understanding of the story and characters and everything that's contained inside of a play like Hamlet. And Hamlet falls into that category. Not all the Shakespeare plays do, but certainly Hamlet does. In fact, I'll tell you, there are some Shakespeare plays that are just terrible. They're just terrible. And then some that are great and illuminating like Hamlet. Hamlet's incredible. Go look at the Laurence Olivier version of Hamlet from the 1940s that won for Best Picture. That's amazing. That's amazing. So when it came to the speed reading program, the Evelyn Wood program, I, as you know, started out at 174 words a minute. And by the time I finished it, I got to, and I had zero comprehension, so 174 words a minute, zero comprehension. And when I finished the Evelyn Wood program, I was at, and that took me, I think, 2 months. I was really dedicated though. I did, because some of those lessons you have to do 5 times. They're like speed lessons or comprehension lessons. And so you got to do, there were 12 lessons, and then most of them you did 5 times. And I did every single one, every lesson, and all the repeats, everything. And I learned more about reading in that speed reading course than anywhere else. That was amazing. If you think speed reading doesn't work, or that it's some kind of fake parlor trick, or some kind of snake oil, not at all. That stuff's the real deal, that speed reading. If you can find a speed reading course, if this is of any interest to you, and I'm sure there's like nobody listening to this right now, I'm seriously just talking to myself. No one's listening to this, and I'm okay with that. But if you want to learn about reading and why you struggle with it, that Evelyn Wood program will really be pretty informative for you. I'll give you one example. And it's so simple, and you can do it right now. And I can't believe they don't teach us this in school. Like, why? But most people read one word at a time, like a laser beam. I hope you can hear this. It's kind of windy out, but I'm hoping my new microphone will, and with the windsock on, will help screen out that window. It'll be nice when it's not windy and I can come out here and walk around on the beach. There's some pretty cool tanker ships out there. And Catalina I'm looking at right now. Here, let me flip it. I don't think you can see it, this lens. I've got the wide angle lens on, by the way. Oh, let me show you that. So this is the wide angle lens. That's the regular lens. So I don't know if there's much of a difference, but there we go. That's the wide angle lens. I had, on the other two videos, I had a different wide angle lens on, and I went and took my car to get it to the car wash, and I was vacuuming the trunk, and something vacuumed up in the vacuum cleaner. I was like, well, I wonder what that was. And a week or so later realized that I had vacuumed up the wide angle lens, so I had to order a new one, and they're about $50 for those. So that was an expensive car wash. Anyway, where was I? Speed reading. So we learn to read one word at a time, because that's how we learn language, one word at a time. And so as we read one word, then the next word, then the next word, then the next word, and then when we get to the end of a sentence, our brain puts the meaning together. It's a very slow, tedious, drawn-out process. But when you get into speed reading, you do this thing called soft focus. And instead of focusing on the words like a laser beam, you sort of soften your eyes a little bit and you sort of open them up, so to speak. So, like if you're in martial arts, as an example, ooh, I might be able to go out on the beach. I think I'm gonna try this. This is gonna be miserable for my shoes, but that looks so nice out there. I'm gonna take you out to the ocean so we're not hanging out by the PCH and hearing all this traffic noise. I wish there was a path to get out there. It kind of looks like there might be. Well, I'm gonna walk on the sand, and how do I get out here? Okay, so this is, oh man, there's gonna be so much sand in my shoes. Okay, so in speed reading, you use soft focus. So if you're a martial artist, let's say, and you're attacked by 10 people and they're encircling you, so you're not gonna just focus on the guy in front of you. You have to soft focus so you see everyone around you. You need to take all of it in. And that way you can see, that way you know how to move and how to block and how to strike, because you can see everyone at one time. Well, speed reading's sort of the same idea. Instead of focusing on one word at a time, you want to use soft focus so that you're seeing more than one word at a time. And you're reading groups of words together instead of one word at a time, then put it together. It turns out that you can actually read, instead of words at a time, you can read concepts at a time. I mean, you've read them so many times, your brain can recognize groups of words together and concepts. And so what you want to do is be able to expand your soft focus more and more and more and get more comfortable with that type of reading, concepts at a time as opposed to words at a time. And suddenly your reading speed is doubled and tripled and quadrupled. Boy, it's windy out here. I hope this doesn't blow up this video. It just might. Here, let me show you. Well, I'll wait till I get a little closer to show you the ocean. So in speed reading, that's what you're doing. That's one of the things you're doing. There's a bunch of other stuff too, but that's one of the things you're doing. You're using soft focus, and then you're doing this thing called pacing with your hand that's going over the words. If you've ever seen that movie Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, there's a moment in that movie where Matt Damon is in his apartment, in his ratty apartment, and he's sitting by a pile of books, and he's going through, and they're the hardest books to read out there. And he's going through books, and he's reading. He just looks at a page, looks at the other page, and then turns the page. Looks at that page, looks at the next page, turns the page. That's an actual speed. That's 5,000 words a minute. If you can get that fast, I mean, I doubt Matt Damon is reading at 5,000 words a minute, but I highly doubt he is. But you can get that fast. That is achievable. as I might have said, I went from 174 words a minute to 1,750 words a minute myself. I wanted to break 2,000, and I still want to revisit speed reading. I don't do it anymore, but I want to go back and see if there's more to learn, and if I can cross 2,000 words a minute. I'm not reading at 1,750 words a minute right now, but that's possible. That 5,000 word a minute speed is actually possible, and higher if you. I mean, you get into speeds that I can't even comprehend. But for you certainly don't have to sit in the, like me, the sub average 174 bucket, or even the 240 words per minute bucket, 1 word per quarter second. You can greatly accelerate that. So for me, studying speed reading and then reading that book, How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler and Charles Van Doren, that absolutely changed everything for me. And the highest form of reading that they argue in that book is something, and it's a term I think they came up with it, because I haven't heard it anywhere else or seen it anywhere else. And I think if you go to Wikipedia, it attributes this idea to those guys, and no one else has used it, as far as I can tell. Maybe academics do, I don't know. That's such a weird world. It's so out of touch with my world that I just don't know. So it's called syntopical reading. And syntopical reading is where you read several books. Wait a minute, oh man, there's people coming out here. I don't want to photograph them. Syntopical reading is where you read several books on a single topic. So let's say you read 10 books on marketing, or 10 books on investing, or 10 books on rental real estate, or 10 books on anything. What happens is your brain takes in all that information, and on its own it starts making connections that aren't in any of the books. So you're synthesizing that material, but you're combining it in a way that it hasn't been combined in any of those other works. Okay, so I'm at the ocean. I'm going to flip you around here. There we go. There's the sun. Still pretty high in the sky, but we are at Huntington Beach right now, and with the wide angle lens we're looking at the ocean. I'm just going to keep walking this way, maybe get closer down to the water, although that might distort the noise even more. I'm sure that you're hearing the wind. Maybe I can block the no, I won't do that. So anyway, syntopical reading. If you read 10 books on a subject or more, in my last video I was talking about money and talking about how I had read 500 books on money, so you can go as high as you want on whatever subject you want. Your brain starts to come up with ideas that aren't in any of those books. So it turns out that there's an entire world that exists beyond the books, but the only way for you to get to that place is through the books. So you have to start reading. You have to stop watching television or sitting there on the internet or whatever. All those just time wasters. And I know it's hard, because I do it too. But you have to be conscious about breaking away from that. And if there's something you want to learn, try giving syntopical reading a try and see if that works for you, as it has for me over and over and over again. In fact, that tends to be how I read everything. I read syntopically. If there's a topic that I'm interested in, I'll read several books on that topic. A lot of times because I'm looking for the voice that I'm going to respond to. Sometimes there are books I'm reading I'm just not connecting with, and then other books I connect with really strongly. So I'm trying to find those books, but I'm also trying to read syntopically, because I'm trying to get to that place that's on the other side of the books, and I can only do that by reading several books on a topic. So like, if you want to learn cryptocurrency, just find 10 books on cryptocurrency and read them. and watch what happens. It's pretty incredible. So that's sort of the idea behind how to read a book and why I think it's transformative. Let's see. If you want to become an expert in your field, like a world expert, the math on that is you need to read for an hour a day for 3 years. So let's say you want to become an expert in monetary history or European history or American history or any of the histories. Let's say monetary history. Monetary history, by the way, is 5,000 years of history. It starts with barter, when people were bartering shells and things like that, and it goes all the way to present day. That's 5,000 years. The Chinese, I think, were the first. I'm going to head back to I'm going to turn around here. The Chinese were the first to create paper money. And the paper money history is really interesting, but also the whole gold and silver story is really interesting when you start looking at mediums of exchange. And then there's guys like John Law. There's Diocletian, who created the first hyperinflation, and he was debasing the coinage. They would go into a coin shop, and you'll notice that there are no like Roman coins, ancient Roman coins that are perfectly intact. They're all clipped. They're all uneven, because if you went into a Senate building or buildings that required you to pay a tax, they would clip your coins, and those clippings would be taken and melted down to create new coinage. So what Diocletian figured out was that he could debase the currency by taking those clippings and introducing lesser metals into the process of making the new coins. But all the merchants figured it out because those coins made a different sound. So they realized that they were being fleeced by Diocletian, and so they started raising their prices. And Diocletian came back and introduced what's called the Edict of Prices, where he said, this is the price of all of these goods and services, and if you charge more for them, you'll be put to death. So all the merchants closed up shop and went elsewhere to get around the Edict of Prices and the debasing of the currency. But anyway, I digress. Let's say there's some kind of history that you're going after, some specific history. What you can do is read, I don't know, pick a number, 10 books, 20 books on a subject, and watch what happens. You will be reading syntopically, and you will enter that space that's beyond the books that you read, and your brain will start to synthesize all that material you've now brought in, and you will have an understanding of that subject you've studied that will be far more in depth than anybody else has. Far more in depth. And something that I don't think they talk about in How to Read a Book, but just because that's how I've read for years and years, if you start reading syntopically on many subjects, so let's say you read 10 books on history and 10 books on, I don't know, how to write, and 10 books on punctuation, and 10 books on speechcraft or presentation design or whatever. I mean, pick your subjects. Those are just some of mine. Then, if you're reading syntopically, not only are you going beyond the books on the individual subjects that you're reading, but you're starting to go beyond the books, beyond the subjects. So you're reading syntopically, but subject-wise as well. And your brain starts to make connections. Boy, I don't know how to get off this path here. Okay, this is going to be a little bumpy. I'll try it anyway. Then you are reading syntopically, but with subjects, individual subjects. And you are suddenly in a place of knowledge and understanding that you're just not going to be able to get to any other way, and you're never going to get that way through school. If you think you did that in school, you didn't. Try and see what happens. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised, and you'll start to see why I think that reading is probably the most pleasurable activity you can possibly do. There's a truth there that you can get to. Now, not all books are telling you the truth. There's a lot of propaganda and nonsense and crap out there, but there's enough that are telling you the truth or truths that you begin to piece together by reading in this way. And but you can only get there if you do the work. And I think the average American watches something like 3 to 5 hours of TV a day, something like that. Or, you know, I'm lumping internet into there as well, because if you're sitting in front of the computer watching videos or whatever, then same thing. But all you got to do is convert one of those hours. Go ahead and sit in front of the computer or the TV or whatever you're doing for, let's say if it's 3 hours, do it for 2 hours a day. Convert one of those hours into reading time and watch your life transform virtually overnight. Now, if you don't do a lot of reading, this is going to be kind of painful in the beginning, but just keep going. And you're also going to do things like, if you're reading a book, you're going to stop reading if you don't understand what it's saying. You're going to want to throw the book across the room. I use a Kindle, by the way, which I highly recommend. But if you're reading and you don't understand what the book is saying, keep going anyway. Even if you don't understand what's there, even if it's just you're just reading words. And the reason you want to keep going is because your subconscious mind is taking it in anyway. And that's what symptopical reading is. Your brain is functioning without your knowledge. You're really just very sort of conscious of a very small portion of what you read anyway. Because notice you'll read a book, and when you put it down, a lot of it just sort of, it's not accessible consciously. But what I've learned over the years of reading is that it's all there. It's all there. And even if you are reading a book and can't understand it, keep going. In fact, in How to Read a Book, they talk about this, and they talk about becoming a better reader. And you do that by reading, they say it this way, you read above your ken. You read above your ken, K-E-N. Your ken is your level of knowledge, your level of understanding. So that's how I was able to read Hamlet, because Hamlet was above my ken. But see, now I understood that that's how you're supposed to read. So I didn't understand all of Hamlet. I didn't understand, you know, the guy invented, whoever you believe Shakespeare was, whether you're a Stratfordian and you believe it was William Shakespeare, or you're an Edwardian and you believe that Shakespeare was Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, as depicted in the movie Anonymous. Either way, the guy, whoever wrote those plays, those 38 plays, was invented 2,000 words, many of which we aren't using any longer, some of which we are. So just keep going. If the books aren't making sense, just keep going. It's all going to end up in your brain anyway, and your brain's going to make sense of it. So don't stop. Now, I do want to say, how far are we in this video? 53 minutes. I don't even know if this is usable video like usual. This is the first time I'm using this mic on a recording. It's been windy. This is probably working based on the previous videos I've done. However, I'm sure there's no one listening to this at all, and I could probably say just about anything and it wouldn't matter because no one's paying any attention to it, which is fine. I want to just say a quick thing about, give you a quick note on audiobooks. Another way to do reading is to listen to audiobooks if you haven't already figured that out. And when I started listening to audiobooks, this is about the same time I was trying to teach myself to read, I had discovered that I absorb information through audio and audiobooks. That was crazy. When I started listening to audiobooks, the amount of information that I was able to put in my brain was was pretty stunning. I'm going to flip this around here. This is a path I guess I could take. I'll try that next time maybe. I guess that just goes out to the water. This is the outlet here, which I was walking by earlier. So, maybe I need to find some new places to go walking. This whole area is near where I live, so it's just really easy for me to come out here and do a walk and talk video, but I need to find some other places to go to. So audiobook learning is an incredible way to get information and knowledge in your head fast. Get yourself an Audible account. Start listening to audiobooks that you're interested in. And it's the same deal. You'll find that you're going to tune in and out of those recordings, whether you're driving or at the gym or taking a walk or whatever you're doing. Your mind will probably go in and out, but keep going. Don't worry about that, because the information is still going into your head and it's still usable, and some of it's retrievable either consciously, but almost all of it's retrievable on the subconscious level, and that information is going to get combined with other information. So you're basically like a sponge, just absorbing all that information, and just know that it's going to be usable, that none of it's wasted. None of that time is wasted. None of those recordings are wasted. And plus, if it's on Audible, you can just go over it again and again and again and again. If you don't know this, if you have an Audible account, if there's a recording that you don't like and that you've used your credits with, you can return that recording, I think, anytime. I don't think that ever expires. So you can return the recording and get a new book that you want. So let's say you have 100 books in your Audible account, and you really want to listen to a certain audiobook. Just go through your library and find the books that you know you're never going to listen to again, and return it and go get the book you want. So this is by far a great way to another great way to get through a lot of reading and a lot of material. I always sort of liken it to the scene in The Matrix where Neo plugs the cable into his neck, and in 2 seconds he says he knows Kung Fu. Audiobook learning is a lot like that. If you get yourself a Kindle, you're automatically faster on a Kindle than you are on a paper book, for various reasons. But that for me where am I going? That for me has also been, I don't know where I am. That has been, okay, let's see. Here's where I am. I'm at the Huntington State Beach Least Turn Natural Preserve. It's a California state park. So, yeah, on a Kindle, you're incredibly fast. You can burn through books at lightning speed. At least I can. I really love that format. And whatever device you get, if it's the Kindle Paperwhite, which if you don't have a Kindle, that's a great place to start. I think they're like $100. If you get that one, or the Oasis, or there's a new one they just put out, I can't remember the name of it, the Scribe or something. Those, you start to get into the $400 and $500 range, and even if you go that high on a Kindle, they pay for themselves if you're reading, because of the amount of money that you save on the books that you purchase. By the way, something that I do, if you don't know this, the Kindle books and books in general change price all the time. So every day, if there's a book I want, I put it on my wish list, and then every day I go through my wish list and see if the price has changed. And a lot of times, $15 and $16 books will drop down to $1.99. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes, every now and again, that happens. But a lot of times they'll drop down to $2.99 or $1.99, or they'll be a third of the price or whatever. And I grab those then. If I want a book, I'll just pay full price. I don't care. But if books are on my wish list that I want to get to, I do check that every day. And when they drop down to $1.99 or thereabouts, then that's when I get them. So, if you are reading, just know that those devices will pay for themselves over time. on the Kindle. Even if you get the super fancy Oasis Kindle or the Scribe or whatever that new one is called, it has a stylus pen that I guess you can write on. I'm not really interested in that. I have an iPad that if I need to do anything like that, I can just do that on the iPad. But you might want to check out the Kindles if you haven't already. But going back to audiobooks just for a second. Okay, I'm now going once again under the PCH. I'm going to try and stay to the side. Going through audiobooks. If you listen to audiobooks, let's say an hour a day. So your commute in your car is a total of an hour. If you're in Los Angeles, it's a total of 12 hours a day. I'm just kidding, but it does feel that way. So let's say you're in your car for an hour a day. That's the equivalent of 1 to 2 full-time university semesters of information that you're pumping into your head every year. If you think that's not going to change your life for the better, you're wrong. It's going to transform your life over and over and over and over and over again. It's a complete game changer. So if you decide, if you decide to get into reading and or audiobook learning, that is going to become the day that you say everything changed for you. That will be the day. And if you push through all the painful stuff about reading that has now embedded itself in your brain from 12 years of government school and then college after that. So I did 6 years of college work. So I did an undergrad and a grad. That was 4 years undergrad, 2 years grad. That's 6 years on top of 12 years, which is 18 years of school. That's a lot of brainwashing, frankly, that's gone into your mind about reading. And as you probably know, if you haven't figured it out, they're giving you books that are really boring, really badly written. All those textbooks, those are really badly written books. And it's painful. And after 12 years of that, and then another 4 years of that on top of it for college, you can see why people get to graduation and say, I'm so glad that's over, now I'll never read another book again. And why the National Booksellers Association tells us that 55% of Americans, upon completion of their formal education, whatever level they get to, never again read another nonfiction book as long as they live. So that's your advantage. It's so easy to do more work than the average person. So don't be average. I gotta sit down for a minute. So I think this is where I'm going to end the walk and talk. It's already been an hour that I've been talking. And I did want to talk about reading, and I know no one's listening to this far. Another thing, so I don't know what else to say about reading. Another subject I'm going to cover is writing, now that I'm thinking about it. And I should have covered it on this walk and talk, but I ended up spending all my time on reading. But there's certainly enough to say about writing, too, that I think would be valuable information for you. I've been reading now about at least 50 books a year. So it's basically a book per week is sort of the average. The highest I've gone, I think, was 70 books. I did 70 books one year. The nice thing about getting a Kindle is that you can exercise. So I get on the Stairmaster, and I do the Stairmaster for an hour, and I read on my Kindle. I put in earplugs and I read on my Kindle for an hour. And because the Kindles are waterproof, I can go into the sauna as well and read in a sauna or by the pool or whatever. So going to the gym ends up to be really productive reading time for me, and it can be for you. That's one way to stack those activities. If you haven't done that before, it might be a little uncomfortable, but I think over time you'll see that it's very doable, and the advantages that you're giving yourself are fairly significant. So yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to say about reading for now. I'll probably mention that in future videos. I do want to talk about writing. Maybe that'll be my next video. I can bore you to death there too. I did forget to mention, and if you've made it this far in this video, thanks for watching. I'll try to bring this up in another video, but if anybody out there is sort of a graphic artist or does sort of video work, and they want to put together an intro and an outro for these videos, please put something together and I'll add that on. This camera's not, there we go. If you'd like to put together an intro, it can have music, graphics, whatever you can think of that would be good for these walk and talk videos. Please put something together and I'll tack it on to these the videos that I'm doing. Make sure, if you want to, put your name on them, maybe the name of your company, so people can get in touch with you if you like. And I'll use those. If you want to write a musical theme or something, I'll use that. If you do any kind of musical work and you'd like to put something together, feel free to do that. But that's it for today. It's April 1st, 2023. Nothing in my video was an April Fool's joke. Just I'll make sure to include that disclaimer. We have some seagulls that for some reason are now watching me and what I'm doing as I'm sitting here on this bench. Maybe they think I'm going to feed them. Oh, they just flew away. But that's it. So again, I'll say it for the 25th time on this video, apologies. If you want to contribute anything to the alumni events, please get in touch with me and I'll tell you where to send the check. We're at $2,200 right now in our account. We're trying to reach the first goal line, which is $3,000, so we're $800 away. We are going to keep going to hit the $10,000 mark, and I'll keep you posted on where we are reaching that goal. And I have Jake Pike and Thomas Columbus who are going to jump on board with what I'm doing, and the three of us together are going to figure out these events for you. So keep an eye out for any communications or videos that we're putting together. Happy, if Jake and Tommy are listening to this, happy to interview you guys anytime. I know we're here in the same area in Southern California, maybe about 15 or 20 minutes away, if that's where you are still living. And if anybody else wants to come on board and work with us as well, please get in touch with me. Other than that, I think that'll do it for this walk and talk. I'm going to go to the gym now and probably get on the Stairmaster for an hour and read my Kindle. And that's it. So anyway, not sure when I'll do another video. Maybe next weekend. I don't know. Sometimes things come up and I probably won't be able to do these, but I will keep you posted. And yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep raising money. Don't forget that the reunion at the fraternity house is 1 week from today on April 8th, 2023. If you haven't already sent in your RSVP, please do so those guys know who's going to show up. All right, so that's it. Take care. This is Scott Benton, and I hope to talk to you soon. Until then, take care.